Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast with Bryce Johnson. It's a show that unpacks sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. Enjoy inspiring conversations and thought-provoking interviews. You'll hear stories from people that will inspire, challenge, and encourage you. Now, from the Unpacking It studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, uniting sports fans everywhere, here is Bryce Johnson.
And joining us now is former NFL player Damione Lewis. He was drafted by the St. Louis Rams in the first round of the 2001 NFL Draft, and throughout his 10-year career, he also spent time with the Panthers, Patriots, and Texans. The defensive lineman played his college football at the University of Miami. He is now retired and is the assistant AD of football and player development at Florida International University. I'm pleased to welcome Damione back on Unpacking It to talk faith, football, and family. Damione, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing well, and we're excited about the NFL draft coming up in just a few weeks, and so we'll ask you about that in just a little bit. But I want to hear about your new role of assistant AD of football player development at FIU. What does the new job entail?
Well, it entails me I help work with the D-line, doing stuff in meetings, and kind of helping get stuff lined up for plays and all that kind of stuff. And then I also help and get the guys involved out in the community and, get them with their community service and get them linked up with different organizations here in South Florida so they can have an opportunity to go out and serve their communities. And with that as well, I also sit down and help with recruiting and, go through Texas. That's my area. I kind of run through Texas and look at all the D linemen, linebackers, and safeties and DBs and try to help find some players as we're sitting there trying to rebuild this program here at Florida International.
Man, well, what a cool job, and it sounds like you get to do multiple efforts, and so that's pretty sweet. So how did you end up pursuing this job, and at what point did you realize that you wanted to get involved with college football?
Well, I started coaching high school football, doodling around with it when I retired. So I never fully left the game, and I went out and had a couple of business ventures and things like that. But it seemed like every time I would get stilled, it would always go back to me reverting to football. So, sometimes you got to say the Lord is trying to tell you something, right?
That's right.
Butch Davis became the head coach here at FIU. I had actually spoke with Mark Richt down at Miami, and I went and done a couple of NFL internships. So I went and done one in Seattle in 2017, and I went last year to Buffalo and did one with Sean and those guys out there. All those guys that came over from Carolina when he got the job there. So, that really lit a fire under me and the coaching and helped me realize, like, I really, really, really want to do this. It's hard when you go in and you do something you absolutely love it, and then your internship ends, and you're like, gosh almighty, man, I wish I was still there doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that really lit a fire, and Coach Davis that called me, and Pete Garcia, who's the AD here, who was also our recruiting coordinator back in Miami when I played there. So they gave me a call and asked me and said, hey, if you want to come down when you get done doing your internship at Buffalo, the doors are open. We'll have you come down, help with the D-line, find a couple of roles for you to do around here. We'd absolutely love to have you. So I took them up on the offer, came down, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, what a great story. Damione Lewis, our guest right now on Unpacking It. He recently became the assistant AD of football and player development at Florida International University, spent 10 years in the NFL. And so what was your college football experience like when you look back, and what lessons did you learn that you're looking forward to continuing to incorporate into your new job?
I feel like, just how far the game has come, from the time I was in college to now, with technique work and all that kind of stuff, and, acquiring a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge of the game, and being able to help the guys and kind of pass that on to them, to help them become better pass rushers, to help them become better run players for the guys up front. But more importantly, just life skill things. Me and Coach Kennard Lang is here in Kennard. I played with Kennard at University of Miami as well, and he had a 10-year career. So you got 20 years of NFL experience sitting in a meeting room with one group of guys. And that's not just on the field experience, that's life experience. So, we take every opportunity we get, to tell the guys the good, the bad, the ugly about, if you do things right things happen. If you do things wrong, bad things happen. And just kind of give them example of guys that we played with, that done it right, and guys that we played with that done it wrong, and just always giving them those examples, and then take that over to the field as well. Guys that worked hard and earned a way to, they end up being drafted in the game, or worked hard in both on the field and in the classroom, and end up, having great jobs when they left college. There's a lot of positivity with being here if you take advantage of those opportunities. So every day we stress, the opportunities that they have in front of them, and, what those opportunities lead to. And, don't be lazy, don't be lethargic, get up and handle your business, take care of your business every day, because every day is a blessing. And, this is short term. It may seem like forever, but if you're here 4 or 5 years, that's not a big chunk of life when you really break it down. So if you're here, you got to take advantage of each and every day that you have here. So that's the message we pass to these guys every single day. And I think they look at us and know what's about to come out of our mouth. I think we're trying to be the hammer and not the nail with them, trying to make sure we're getting it in there.
I love it. I love that perspective. Damione Lewis with us right now on Unpacking It. And so you mentioned the off the field aspect as well, that you want to develop, these guys into men and being able to even have an impact on their community. And I think a lot of times we think, okay, NFL guys, they'll give back. They've got the money to give back maybe, or think, oh, maybe guys after their playing career, then they can give back to the community. But how important is it to really instill in these guys on the college level to have this mentality of serving and being a part of, the community that they're playing football in, and leave a lasting impact?
It's important because everywhere you go, you have an opportunity to make an impact. It's just not necessarily always in your neighborhood. If you're here and you're from Texas, or you're from North Carolina, or you're from anywhere else in the country, you are in this community now, and you have an opportunity to make an impact in this community, because for the next 4 years of your life, this is your community. It's your college community. So it is imperative that you get out and get involved and create relationships and network with all these different people that are your age and that are your peers and are people who are influencers in this area, because you don't know what life is going to bring for you, 10, 15 years down the road. And you don't know who you will be able to reach back and help, or may be able to reach back and help you. So it's always great to go out and network and put your best foot forward, go out and meet people, especially being in the neighborhood like here in South Florida. It's just so transient here. But it's the same in any neighborhood or any area of the country. So if you're from a small town, you learn those skills here on how to communicate, how to, network with different people, how to create these relationships and, get these relationships to where you actually get something involved, instead of guys just sitting, meeting, drinking a beer or drinking water or whatever, or going out for dinner and not really getting anything done. You end up having results with the meetings that you have, and that's what these young guys really need to pick up and learn from, and I think they're doing a great job at it. College is the one area where you get the opportunity to go out. You're away from home, you're out of your community, so you actually get to learn another part of the country, another part of the world, and get to be a more well-rounded individual. And for these kids, that's just outstanding. You don't realize that blessing at the time when you're going through it, but, we're trying to do a good job in making sure that they're hearing this message every day, because it is so true. Whatever they learn here in South Florida, they will be able to take back to their own community and be able to bless those young kids that are coming up in their communities with the knowledge that they gain while they're here. And, for me to be able to be a part of that and, be a part of that tree of them growing and learning and being able to have these skill sets to take back home, I'm all for that, because that's us helping this community, helping these kids, become better and better themselves and better their family.
Those are all great skills for all of us. So that's a wonderful message, and being able to get these guys at a young age to realize that and see the value in it. Man, love that you're sharing that with those players down at FIU.
You're sitting in the locker room, but you're sitting in the room with guys. A lot of these kids are coming from the inner city. A lot of these kids are raised in single-family homes. If we got 95 kids on the team, 30 of them, come from either where they're raised by their grandparents or they're, a single parent. And, they haven't been raised in a way where they're being able to go out and share and learn these type of things on a day-to-day basis. So I think, me having my kids and the way I grow and the way I raise my kids, I know I wasn't raised that way. So I totally understand and totally get where a kid is coming from, where he may walk into college and feel a little bit lost, but that's where we are able to come in and help them find their way. And to me, that is one of the most important things we can do for them, is help them find their footing, get them comfortable in their environment so they can go out and thrive each and every day.
I love it. So for you then, when did you get to that point, and when did you learn those skills? Because you kind of mentioned maybe you didn't necessarily learn all that growing up. So what was that process like for you personally?
I think a lot of the stuff I started to learn when I got here, when I got to Miami. We always had older guys come back, they'll stick their head in and, share a couple of things with us. We'd go out to dinner with them and, they'll share a couple of situations, couple of things that may have happened, how they handle certain things. And, I always was a question asker as well. So I'd always ask guys, how do they handle this? How do they handle that? And just kind of help myself learn as much as I could. I come from a small town in Texas. My hometown's like 14,000 people.
Wow.
So it ain't a whole lot going on there. Everything in that town is done to this day, still done on handshake, and your last name goes a long way. And people know your generational last names, who your grandfather was, who your dad is, who your uncles, your cousins, so that carries a lot of weight. And a family's character is based on, how a family's true character and how a family really acts. So that's the environment I grew up in. But coming here to South Florida, you don't know anything about anybody, so you really have to learn to pick up your people skills and really learn people. You can't lean on, family history because you don't know family history. So maybe, get out of your comfort zone and have to really put yourself out there, but you also have to be, conscious of what you're hearing and, what people are doing and kind of learn, what's real and what's not, so that's just one of those things just for me coming from a small town into a big city and just kind of learning those different things there, keeping my nose clean, staying out of trouble and, being able to make a positive impact on the Miami community when I was here.
That's right. Well, I'm a little biased, of course, because I'm an interviewer on the radio, but that skill of being a question asker is something that really everybody should develop. To be curious, to learn from other people, to actually, ask people what they know, what they've experienced, and that can happen day to day, whether you're standing in line at the grocery store or your waitress. You just never know who you can learn from, or just you ask a question and it leads to something else. And so I appreciate your perspective on that, because I think that's sometimes an underutilized skill, yet it's so simple. You just ask. You're just curious about life and people. So.
Man, it makes you get out of your comfort zone because, I can easily sit in the grocery line and not say a word.
That's
I
right.
can check out and just move on and, don't say hi. Don't ask the lady that's scanning my groceries how she's doing. Don't ask the older gentleman behind me, what kind of day he's having. I could just sit there and be to myself, but I try not to be that way. And my grandparents were kind of like that. My dad was like that. My mom was like that. So that's kind of where I kind of picked that skill up from, always sparking the conversation. I don't like to feel like if there's a stranger in the room, when I walk into the room, I want to try to get around and speak to everyone if I can pull it off.
That's right. I'm right there with you. That's really cool. Damione Lewis, our guest right now on Unpacking It. He spent 10 years in the NFL, played with the Rams, the Panthers, and now he's a coach and an assistant AD of football player development at Florida International University. And we got the NFL draft coming up in a couple of weeks, and I love hearing stories from guys who have already been through the process. So you were drafted 12th overall by the St. Louis Rams back in 2001. So what were your memories of that day and the weeks leading up to it?
I remember weeks leading up to it, I actually got a call from the Carolina Panthers. Marty was not the GM at the time. I cannot remember the guy's name that was the GM. But I got a call from them. This was probably about 3 weeks before the draft. And then I was in constant contact, or my agent was in constant contact with St. Louis. By then, I'd worked out for the Rams privately and went on a visit out to Cleveland, and went on another visit to Baltimore. So I had a little activity coming up before the draft. But on draft day, my cousin, McClinton Neal, came by the house and picked me up. And I'm saying his name because he ran in Barcelona. He ran the 400 hurdles, in the Olympics in Barcelona.
Yeah.
He comes by the house out from Dallas, and he has his fishing poles in the back of the truck. So we go out, it's like 7:30 in the morning, 6 or 7 in the morning. We go out and we go fishing. And we absolutely destroyed him that morning. We're in Texas, the weather is nice. We went out, cast a couple, and had a really good time sitting there talking and hanging out with my older cousin, and my brother was with me. And, we're just chilling, man, just like, old times, and, just kind of catching up with each other on life and plans and all that kind of stuff. And, I rolled in the house, probably about 3 or 4 picks in when I got there. Went in, took a shower, came out, sit down for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then the phone rang, and it was over. It was that simple. Back in the day, a lot of guys didn't really go out, to the actual event and stuff like that. I think, the whole deal with Sapp and then with Randy Moss kind of scared a lot of guys off from doing that because that was fresh on everybody's mind. Last thing you want to do is be sitting in the green room and you start falling, That's like that feeling like nobody wants to have that. So, I think Michael Vick and a few other guys went, but it wasn't that many that went out to the draft in that 2001 class, So everybody that I knew that, going through that process, guys that I met, everybody were back home with their family just hanging out and chilling, kind of doing the same thing I was.
No, that's fun, and that's a great experience as well. So what is your advice then to guys who are about to be drafted? What do you tell them as far as just kind of what you learned and maybe something that they don't necessarily realize heading into the draft?
This is the beginning of the journey, so when the easy part is coming up is when you're getting your name called. You still got to continue to work and even work harder and really get your body prepared for that treacherous rookie season because, when you get to about week 8, you've already played 12 games, and a lot of, some guys may or may not have had a bye week by then, and your body is feeling it. In college you get a bye week, maybe 2 bye weeks, depending on where you're playing at. And, it is, and the pounding is nowhere near what it is in the NFL, especially back in the day, because back then, we could practice in pads year round. We didn't have to, it wasn't a limited amount of padded practices you can have throughout the week getting ready for the season or getting ready for the games. So, it was a grind. It was a real grind. And I think that was the biggest adjustment, your body just getting used to getting up, and being in the office Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, flying out Saturday, or going to the hotel Saturday, playing on Sunday, coming in on Monday, Tuesday off, and you start it all over again. And it is every day for the better part of 20-plus weeks. And, that's when you realize there's no school, there's no homework to turn in, and none of that. You are literally doing this for a living, and it is real that first year. It's fun, but it's definitely an adjustment. So I think, guys just get themselves prepared for that and just realizing this is the start of the journey, not the end. A lot of guys that got drafted 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round have made great careers, and a lot of guys in the first round hadn't lasted that long. So it is about what you do when you get there, not necessarily how you get there. So every guy that gets drafted, every guy that goes in as a free agent has an opportunity to make an impact on a football team, and they need to go in with that mindset. Nobody's giving up on you if you're not giving up on yourself. So just go out there and work and do your very best and play your hardest each and every chance you get, and just try to do whatever you can to get yourself to rise up that depth chart.
So true. Damione Lewis, he was drafted 12th overall by St. Louis back in 2001, spent 10 years in the NFL. And Damione, as you know, we love talking football on Unpacking It, but we also love talking faith and family. And so just curious, in what ways has God really been working in your life recently? What have you been maybe learning or studying or just thinking about?
I think it's just been patience, because I'm not at home. I'm here in Miami. My family's still in Charlotte. The kids are in school and stuff like that. And, sitting here chasing this and wanting to do this for a living and just learning to be patient. I can't get home every week because I got responsibilities here, and just trying to be, just find my calm and find my peace in that, and being patient with that's kind of really hard, not being around the kids every day, So, and being around my lovely wife, she's a lovely lady, being around her every day, and I miss mama's cooking, you know what I'm saying? So, just, patience in that, and just really getting back into, fine-tuning myself and honing in on my craft. Not being home is really giving me an opportunity to really sit here and focus and learn what it is to be a coach, because it is different from playing. I know how to relate to guys. I've always been able to be a player coach, so to speak. But being an actual coach is a lot different than being a player. And, and just kind of taking on those responsibilities and staying the task every day and making sure the guys stay the task, and being on point with what we're talking about and how we're presenting it and how we're teaching these guys and getting the results that we want to get out from them, and being able to, constantly go in and study and things like that, and, just staying fresh. And I think, just patience in that, and just faith in that the Lord is going to lead us through and make sure, we get it done. I think those two things, patience and faith, has been the things that I've been tested the most at, but also the things that I've been honed in and focused on more than anything.
Yeah, because how do you feel like this time away has grown your faith and just your dependence on God during this time?
Yes, I mean, because I'm not home. I'm not the security man sitting at home with the family, and so you got to have faith that they're in God's hands and that He's going to take care of them, because I am 10 hours away driving, and that's a long way. So if things go bad, I really have to depend on Him to be there and do that. And that has been probably the hardest thing for me, because I've always been hands-on, always been at the house. They've always been with me. And, you just find pride in that. But not being home has really made me lean on Him and, praying to Him that everything's going to be all right with the wife and little ones. You know what I'm saying? So that has really, really, really been challenging. It really has.
Yeah, no, I bet. I know a lot of people listening can relate to that, going through certain seasons of life where, yeah, you're either traveling a lot for work or having to be located somewhere else temporarily, and your family's somewhere else. So that's a challenging season for sure. And Damione, as we wrap things up, I've recently been asking my guests this kind of final question, because my wife and I we're due with our first child this August, and so I just want to hear maybe a word of advice or a word of wisdom for a first-time dad. What do you got for me today?
Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Whatever she says, yes, ma'am. If you don't agree and you just don't want to agree, well, no, ma'am, I don't know if I could do it. Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And plenty of feet rubs, and whenever she needs to get out and get her hair done, or just go out and be a woman for, get whatever she needs to get done for an hour or 2, 3 hours, make sure that you are there to do the duties of, taking care of your baby. Make sure she get those chances where she can step out of the house and, take care of the little one and prepare dinner and allow her to go out, for dinner or whatever it may be with her friends. So she keep her contact alive and keep her, old things she had going on alive and well, because with the first one, man, they do not want to leave the house. They want to be there and do every single thing. So, she's got to have faith and have patience in you and know that you are willing and able and capable of taking care of that little one while she steps out of the house for a couple of hours and, go out and sit down and have a conversation over, a nice bite to eat with her friends. So, that just keeps her good and helps her and keeps her mind fresh, because I'm telling you, buddy, when they come, that about good 3-4 months there, man, it's going to be like Groundhog Day.
I believe it.
Get ready, brother. I'm just telling you, get ready. So like I said, make sure you got the lotion out. Make sure you give your wife a foot rub. And make sure you give her some time to get out with her friends, and that, you can take care of the baby. And there's some other things, other tools that she's going to have with her when she does that. But y'all will go over all that when the time comes. We won't talk about that on the air.
There you go.
But, say, hey, I got this.
I like it. No, that's excellent practical advice. So I appreciate that, Damione. Yeah. And, man, thanks so much for coming back on Unpacking It today. Wish you the best with the new job, and hopefully we'll connect when you're back in Charlotte at some point. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely. There's Damione Lewis joining us here on Unpacking It.
For more information about the show, our events, and other resources, visit unpackinit.com. That's unpackinit.com. We hope you are encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. To support our show and Unpacking It Ministries with a financial gift, visit unpackinit.com/donate. We look forward to unpacking sports, faith, and life with you again next week.